My God, Paul, how are you?
Man, I'm doing great. I'm feeling great. It's been a journey so far.
I know it's been a journey. Speaking of journeys, first time I met you, maybe it was the second time, but first time I worked with you was on the denim shoot, our
Oh yeah, I
very
remember that.
first photo shoot. I forget what studio or where we were, but just the photos. Not only did they turn out great, but working with you was just a great experience, real professional, and you even tried learning guitar that day too,
Right? Yeah, yeah.
as if you didn't have enough skills already. uh, can you just kind of put yourself back into that room and that time and that space? What was that version of Paul in that moment a couple of years ago?
uh, the version of Paul, I think that was when I started uh, crossing over into this new phase in my art, uh, where it's like I started to like have a desire to be more intentional with my work, and really started asking myself a lot of questions. Uh, it was a it was a stage of uncertainty, really, where I wasn't really sure. It's almost like the more I know, the more I question the type of work I do. Uh, and there's also like a push and pull because when people came up to me, they want that fun, that just artistic, aesthetic work, and I'm out here trying to be more intentional. And so that was kind of like the phase I was in then.
Yeah. And I knew your work previously, and I think this one was more. It was still creative, but I think it was a different type of maybe creative outlet for you, where we kind of had the fits, we had the vision, and we just wanted like your touch as far as a photographer. But previous to that, I mean, a lot of your work had been very like scenic, and
Yeah.
it takes you to a world, an imagination. Were you always trying to have that kind of emotional pull with your work when you started off?
Yeah, it's always been that way, man. It goes back to like when I was in Nigeria, uh, and how I grew up, and everything, relationships and stuff like that. Um, like when I say relationships, I mean like the difficult parts of it. Everything really like came and showed up into my work, even without me realizing it. Really, like I look back and I'm like, yeah, this is where this inspiration comes from. So, and it's yeah, yeah. Uh, it's really interesting because like I said, when I how I grew up, uh, I remember being like coming back from school and just always like one thing I used to do for fun was to close my eyes, right, and just reimagine myself walking home. But in doing that, I try to like find the details in everything. Like, okay, I'm closing my eyes walking back home, and it's a long walk, but I try to pretty much capture every details on the road. Like there's a woman that sits at this house, there's this brown house, there's this 2-story building right here, and I used to do it like a lot, right? Just because it's like I didn't have time to like hang out with my friends because I was working at a really early age, and that really helped me in my work now because it's like I can be in a room or I can have a concept in my head and I don't have to actually see someone, like where I can just like conceptualize everything in my head here, and it comes out to be exactly how I imagine it. So when someone said like I can picture it in my head, I literally had that. So that was kind of like something that really helped me in my work. Yeah.
That's extremely hard to do as well, because oftentimes for me, whatever creative outlet I'm trying to do, whether it's music, whether it's like this podcast, right, I might dream about it, envision what that moment will be like, but oftentimes it doesn't go that way, for better or worse. Sometimes I exceed my imagination, right, and those are the times where you're like, wow, like we did this, or I did this, right, in that moment. Let's also rewind to being in Nigeria and growing up there as well. When did you formally move to the U.S. and kind of what was the root of that?
Okay, before I get to that question,
Yeah.
right? I noticed I didn't fully answer your last question about the emotional pull, right? And really, like the emotional part, I think has always been there too. Which I'll touch on it later. But how it usually goes is like, say I'm driving, I see something, or I listen to a music, and I just kind of like stay in that song because it triggers something, and then what usually happens is it inspires me to just create something and go forward with it. So that's that. Could be music, could be conversations, could be colors, anything, but something usually triggers it. And the idea just pops in, and I know that, okay, this is the one, and I just go forward with it. So it's not a huge struggle. Was actually, I think for the past 2 years, I've not really had that feeling, and it came to me last week. You should have seen the excitement in my face.
Whoa. So that's a 2-year drought.
2-year drought, literally. So yeah, it came to me last week, and I was like, "Holy shit,
Man!"
So yeah,
and that goes to show that sometimes you can't force that inspiration or that emotional pull that keeps you going. But obviously, during those 2 years, it's not like you weren't doing anything.
No,
right?
no.
Right.
Like, I had to learn other ways to like create, like by creating mood boards and just finding interest in other things. It's kind of almost like textbook way to create. Like, it was hard kind of finding originality though, because I didn't used to like the idea of like looking at other people's work and recreating something similar. It used to be like original, based off what I was feeling and what I wanted to create for myself. Yeah, so it was a learning curve, really.
Yes. But I'm sure that young boy that was in Nigeria definitely would still be proud of kind of what you evolved into. So that young boy in Nigeria, what was he like? And were you always holding the camera? Were you always kind of, I mean, you already illuminated on that you were imagining and building these worlds through your vision. Take us back to that as well.
I remember, so the first time I held a camera was actually right before I came to America. We went to a beach, and it was like a family gathering, and someone had a camcorder, and they were like, "Oh, Paul, take a picture of us." And that's the first time I actually held a camera. And I bought a camera not because I wanted to be a photographer. It was because I wanted to do spoken words. And I reached out to this one girl, and she gave me an insane prize that I couldn't afford at the time. So when I saved up the money, I just realized that I could buy a camera with this.
Shout out to that. Shout out to her.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was like, I could buy a camera with this, and I took the $900 to go buy a full camera with just a normal lens kit that comes with it.
Wow.
And that actually, the camera was just at the crib for a while because I didn't understand nothing about it. And one day I was cleaning up, and I found the camera. I was like, oh, let me see how this actually works. And I put it on auto settings and gathered my shoes at the time, took a picture of it, and it was just love at first sight.
Those shoes looked even better in that picture than when you had them on.
Like went outside, it was in summer, just took a photo of it on auto settings, and ever since then I got hooked. Started watching a bunch of YouTube videos. I was spending 10, 12 hours a day just watching YouTube videos
YouTube
on how
University.
on how a camera works. And shout out to Pablo. That's, I would say, if not for Pablo, Pablo Papi, I don't know if you know him. Tim?
Oh, yes, I know of Pablo Papi.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. He played a huge role because he used to live across from me.
Okay.
He played a huge role in my growth because I would call him at the hardest hours. Yeah. Like, yo, Pablo, I have can you, when you're free, it would be like, oh, okay, 1 second, I'm doing dishes right now. I'll come through when I'm done, and it would actually come true. And sometimes I'm shooting him, sometimes he's shooting me, and that used to happen a lot. And he never once told me no, and because that enabled me to like allow me to practice and put in those hours, and joined a couple Facebook groups, and then I met Payoki because I saw his work, and it turned out to be one of the most like insane work I ever seen, and I said to myself, I need to be this good. Right? So I reached out to him and I was like, hey bro, I really want to learn photography and I love your work. Would you mind me shadowing you for, and like one of your shoots? And he lived in St. Cloud at the time, and it was like here. And I think I went with my friend Emmanuel. We drove there to St. Cloud, and I saw him do a shoot, and that's when he taught me how to shoot in manual mode. How to focus in manual mode with my camera, because we were we were using Canon, so it was easier for him to teach me, and just from there got better. Reached out to Seth, and like one thing that really helped me was really just like reaching out to people. So, but photography was never the intention. Like it never occurred to me. I just kind of found out I got good at it, and that's really the first thing I ever got good at, because before that I was struggling in school, right, failing my classes, because I came to America, like I didn't come to go to school, I came to work and make money, and all of a sudden it's like you got to go to school to be anything in life, and and African parents and African uncles and stuff like that, it was like, oh, you're gonna end up in McDonald's and stuff like that. So I was like, you know what, fuck this, I'm gonna join the Navy. I went into the Navy, got sent back the next month. Didn't finish.
1 month in the Navy.
1 month in the Navy.
Wow.
Didn't finish boot camp. So
did you at least take your camera with you?
No, I didn't have a camera then.
Okay.
So I came back and had to go back to school.
Yeah.
And photography, and that's when I learned something really big about myself, that I can't excel or grow at anything if I'm not interested in it, right? Then I started doing things that I was more passionate about. I was in North American at the time, majoring in computer science, right? So I took the same strategy and applied it to school. I reached out to a friend, Kyle, right? And reached out to Kyle, I was like, listen, I remember stopping him in the hallway because Kyle was the guy in front of the class. He sat in front. I was always sitting in the back. I've never sat in front of the class. So that day I sat in front of the class and sat right next to Kyle and reached out to him later. I was like, listen, this is my third time taking this class. Third time taking this class. I need help. And he was like, yeah, come over to my place. I went to his house, and turns out it never really, like, that was all I needed. I just needed a friend, something to relate to. And seeing him being passionate about something strike the passion in me. And I finished that class with an A+.
Man, shout out Kyle. And
So, and really just started applying everything to anything I do. Like, whether it's fashion, I just find the passion. I just do things that I'm more passionate about.
Yes. I think the clear kind of storyline there is finding a passion and then being comfortable enough within yourself to know, maybe I'm not really strong at this right now, but I have that passion, I have that curiosity, and finding those people that can also lift you up, I think is really important.
Building a community around what you love.
Yes.
You know, that's really important. And it helps with because it's like you need that. Like with fashion, there's Denimani, there's Jua, there's Manny. I have a bunch of friends that make clothes. So it's just, Yeah,
man. That's beautiful. Let's also fast forward to today. You recently, just got back from basically a world tour. With Adekunle Gold. Were you just doing photography, or
I was just doing photography?
Just doing photography. Was that something that you thought this kind of passion that you had could lead you towards, live concert on the road type of photography with one of the biggest artists in the world right now?
See, it was a very interesting opportunity, and when I first went on the tour, that was last year because we had a tour last year. I just wanted to get out of Minnesota for a while because my friend had just passed, and it was a whole mess for me too as well because a lot of people were upset at me that I didn't do enough that night. So I just needed a break, and I took the tour and just was like, you know what, let me just change space for a while.
Yeah.
And concert photography wasn't something I do, right? It's far off from what I do, right? And it showed that mindset reflected in the type of work because I'd see the work and I was like, I know I can do more than this, but when you shooting concerts, you can't control the light.
Yeah.
You just have to find the moments, right? And you can't control much of anything really. I would see the work and you have to be done, get the photos ready, like the next morning. Like you have like 6 hours to get everything ready. You understand what I'm trying to? You're in the business too.
We just did the show in Sydney.
It has to be ready before 6 in the morning.
The next day, we can't wait till next
week. You can't wait till next week. Yeah, it got to be ready. So it's like I don't even have time to like think or just see what I want to do with this photo.
Right.
But the biggest thing was the mindset, really. Like me still identifying when someone meets me, I'm like, oh, I just wanted to do this, but I'm not a concert photographer.
Yeah.
And that really like took away from what it really stopped me in like it cut my potential like a lot. As opposed to this year when someone says, oh, so you do this now, I'm like, hell yeah. I shoot concerts. I'm a concert photographer now. It's part of what I do. Yeah. And me owning it really helped improve my work. And it made my time spent not wasted. Yeah. Right? I can look back in this moment and not feel like, oh, I wasted my time because it's not something I do. Or I can't post the work because it's not something I do. Yeah. Really, because it comes down to how people want to box you in. And then we tend to box ourselves in. Right, it's like just because I'm a photographer doesn't mean I can't do fashion. Doesn't mean I can't do this. Doesn't like it's my life. I can do whatever I want with it.
Point blank, right there. Yes,
right.
Yes.
So it's just like, and shooting with AG, is such an amazing human being. And I start to one of my biggest discovery is like the same fear, the same doubts, the same. You feel it. Even when you're successful, you have those doubts, you have those moments. Yeah. Right? It never stops. But the thing about it is that when you get to the top, you're not doing it alone, right? Yeah. There's always people around you to reassure you of who you are. Mm-hmm. Right? There's always a community around you. Now, people's livelihood depend on you. Right? So it's just but the same thing is still there, right? Yeah. It never and that's just it's like what people see on stage, I see something different behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. And it really like helped me like understand that, you know what, like don't push the fear away. Don't push the doubts away. Actually, you need them to help you grow.
Yes.
Right?
Because if you start to feel comfortable, then you don't grow when you're comfortable.
You don't grow when you're comfortable, right? Exactly. Always want more, always want better, but understand that I am enough right now and I'm doing my best. Yes. You know, so there has to be like that balance right there. Yeah. And I'm really grateful for the opportunity. And I went for a tour, but I found a family. You know, so
damn, you should put that on a t-shirt, bro. I went for a tour, but I found a family.
So that's really it, right? Like, yeah. Like, amazing team.
And while you were kind of on this run, were you able to find balance, not only, because physically you're going city to city, you're shooting these photos, you're meeting people, you're also keeping in touch with the people you got back home. Were there any other like routines? Like I know you're super into like your fitness as well, and overall just self care. Did you find that it was harder to do those things when you were kind of on the road and in that lane versus like when you're here in Minnesota and things are a little bit more?
Yeah, it was definitely harder because the first week was just a mess for me trying to balance off everything. There's a lot required from you, and then there's people back home you need to touch in with. Um, so what I did was find that like starting point for me. So I asked myself back on what was my routine like, and I realized that I always started with working out, right?
Yeah.
So I said, how can I take this with me on tour? So finding that structure to start with, and that's when I started doing 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, squats, and just 5 minute shadow boxing, and I never missed a day.
Ooh, that
Right.
is
And
that is literally all you do need. Yeah.
And even since I've been back,
Mm-hmm.
I've not actually had time to go to the gym.
Yeah.
But what I've been doing is I took that with me.
Mm-hmm.
That it's like, yeah, I can't make it to the gym, but while I'm home in my pants or whatever, I still am able to do 100 push-ups until I have time to actually create a routine to start going to the gym, right?
Yeah.
And having that structure really helped me, and being able to be consistent at something.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like a virus. It spreads out towards everything
Yeah, everything that you do.
that I do. So I started finding structure, and even with editing, I started having a workflow to the point where before going to the show,
Mm-hmm.
I put some certain things in place to help me come. Like when I come back, I have my laptop already set. Just plug it in, transfer the image before I go to bed. Wake up in the morning, edit the pictures. But I know that the pictures are already loaded on Lightroom.
Yeah.
That way I don't have to wait hours because I'm loading in like 1,600 photos. That takes time. So that I let that happen when I'm sleeping.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just finding a workflow, and but that all started from me setting up my structure with working out.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Skin routine really is just like when you're on tour on the road, drinking too much water is like kind of you don't want that because you're dry weak always on the road.
Yeah.
You can't make us. You can only make it like 3 to 4 like restroom stops, right? So you have to be careful drinking water. So that kind of like made me break out and stuff. But when we back to our hotels, try to work out and get like Gatorade, like electrolytes and stuff like that to balance it. Drank a lot of tequila though, but
naturally,
right?
Yeah.
The tour is tequila ever after. So just here and there, started finding ways to balance out, but also like really like I think the most important thing is just taking it easy on yourself. That in itself, like, because stress in itself can just fuck you up in a lot of ways. So I would say the biggest thing I did was maintain my stress level.
Yeah. And there's a saying that a football coach of mine had in college. He was like, "Control the controllables," right? Because there's going to be a lot of unexpected turns, events that happen along the way. But as long as you have those things that you can control, which for you it's your routine as far as taking care of yourself physically and also mentally, and then finding those ways to like make your time more efficient. Like you said, while you were asleep, you had those photos already loading, right? Just like little things that you can control, so that then it's not just like, what do I do, and all that stress and that pressure, and then unfortunately, that's when you kind of lose yourself, you know, and it happens to the best of us,
I agree with that.
Yeah. So
did I answer your question though?
Yeah, ask me a question. Yeah.
Oh, I said, did I answer your question?
Yeah, you answered the question. You answered the question.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll find a question for you though. So
this is a conversation. So, yeah. Now you're back in Minnesota, a place that has been home to you as well. How has like the seasons, and I'm just talking like the scenery of Minnesota itself, like created and molded who you are as well. Have you noticed that and gained that perspective now
Oh,
having been
absolutely.
other places?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm in New York, and I don't see what everyone else sees when it comes to like creating. Um, it's too congested for me, right? Like there's just so much going on. There's too much information to download.
Yeah.
I'm in LA, and when someone asks me like, "Let's shoot," I tell them, "Okay, let's drive 5-6 hours to the sand dunes
Yeah.
and shoot there because it feels more like Minnesota." A lot
Right.
of space, right? So I want to take you outside of LA to go shoot.
Yeah.
I want to take you to the studio where I can control like the scenery and really like rent like a studio with bigger space. And that's the Minnesota in me just coming because I realize that when I shoot out here, I don't do just walls. I take it to the field. I take it to the sand dunes and Maple Grove. I take it to places that have more space where I can work with the scenery and also work with the model, rather than just focusing on you. And plus, it's more so about telling a story too as well. So it's like, yeah, Minnesota really inspired that in me. I just love like just capturing because at first I actually wanted to be like a landscape photographer,
Okay.
but like I said, all I had was Pablo. So I kind of started incorporating. So I see that still coming into my work, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the landscape plus one.
Plus
know
what?
what I mean?
And I'll tell you. I'll actually tell you about the concept that came to me. The idea that came to me.
Yeah, please do.
Let me think for a second. Yeah. So it's the idea of it, right? The story behind it is really like, well, the name of the shoot, it's the real ones are harder to maintain, right? And like, okay, what is it talking about? And here's how I actually started. I was driving and I looked to the left, right, and I saw these flamingos, right, and they were pretty, and there was snow on them, right, and they weren't real flamingos, right? It was just fake ones in front of someone's yard. And I was like, and in my head it's like, and something just popped up in my head. It was like, damn, it would have been nice if they were real. But the real ones are harder to maintain. There's shit everywhere. And then, and then I thought about flowers too, like when we were in Montreal, and I noticed that they had every single building I saw, it was the street. Well, every single building had just flower pots hanging outside, right? And it was pretty, and then they were real flowers, right? And I was like, damn, why don't I see that out here in the States that much? I wish every stores and every buildings had that. But it's like, damn, the real ones are harder to maintain, right? I had plans before and they died off, right? And it comes down to relationship again, right? And it's like, why do we have this surface level conversations, and why is it harder to be in a relationship that, where you actually love someone?
Yeah.
Right? Because it's a lot of work, man.
It is. It is.
It is a lot of work.
I can tell you
right?
that. Yeah.
And once the butterfly stage is over, you just want to jump into the next, find a new girl and get, it's kind of like you want to be stimulated all the time because it takes less work. It's like surface level, like conversations. It's just someone new, so it's already interesting enough, right? So that's really what the idea, and I want to bring that into photography, where it's not just your normal poses. It's more conversational, where I caption it and talk about these things. The real ones are harder to maintain.
I like it, man. I was imagining when you first said flamingos, I was imagining real flamingos with snow on them.
Yeah, but there's shit everywhere.
Yeah. And real flowers in Montreal. Like if they were real, but it's hard to maintain.
Yeah.
Simply put.
Yeah.
My man.
So that's where my work is kind of heading into, because I realized I got tired of I'm tired of just the normal. I mean, it's beautiful. I'll still do it, but right now I'm not inspired to create just normal fashion shoots and normal creative stuff. I want to do more storytelling.
Yeah. And I mean, personally, like, I enjoy that no matter what the domain. Like, I love watching a movie with a really good plot. I love a song with a real story of a verse and a chorus. And I think there's more people around that definitely do like that too. But, you know, in this current climate that we're in, people just maybe don't even take the time to really dissect the leaves or even put in the work that is necessary to tell a real story, because that is hard to come by as well.
Yeah.
Not everyone can do that. And we also got to highlight, you know, you don't just do photography. You know, you design and make clothes.
Yeah.
You build websites as well.
Yeah.
You had that computer science background. Can you also shine some light on those other endeavors too? And
yeah, absolutely. So lately, I've been doing more fashion, and that's really what I've been posting on my stories. And it's just I met Denny Manny, right? Shout out to Denny Manny. It started with Denny Manny, right? I met Denny Manny and did a shoot for him for his brand with Atelier, right? And just it sparked something. I was like, and just seeing him create something from scratch and just seeing that passion. It came at the time where I was kind of losing inspiration and passion in photography. So I wasn't really feeling it that much. And I saw that in someone else and wanted that. It's like, damn, you're passionate about this. I want that. Give me some of that. And started asking him questions and decided to like get into sewing. But before that, I'd met Manny, and I reached out to Manny too. I was like, yo, bro, I really love your style, right? And can I do a shoot with you? And now we're brothers. Started a brand together, 5 Minutes in Mercury, and now Manny is doing music and is an amazing artist. So it's just, you know, like people, really. Like, it all starts with, I see something in you that I really like, and I'm not afraid to try it out, right? Because once I really like it, I know myself that can turn into something I'm passionate about. And once I'm passionate about something, there comes the obsession about learning. And that right there, and someone says, how are you so good at everything you do? Because it's not. Photography, art, fashion, even designing websites, they're not so far off, man.
No.
You know, like it's just different means of putting out the same ideas.
Yes. You're using it's different tools.
Different tools, yeah.
Different tools, but as long as like you have the passion and at least have like the willingness to want to learn it, it's the same exercise.
Like the whole the real ones are harder to maintain. That could be, I could put that on clothes and make it fashion. I can make it photography. I can make it a website. I can make it a song. You can make it anything, really. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like the ideas are still the same. It's just the tools that are different, right? So I don't find myself doing anything different. I don't find myself having to read anything different or listen to anything different. It's just the tools I'm using to put out the ideas are different.
Well said, my man. Well said. Well, I only got one more question for you. And I think this is, you've given the gems and sprinkled them along the way in our conversation. But for those people that are just kind of starting their creative pursuit, whether it's in fashion, photography, regardless of domain, what would be some advice that you would give them that maybe you didn't know that you know now, or things that worked for you? Like you already mentioned, like you weren't afraid to reach out to people and just like, hey, they might not reply, but at least you put that out there and let's see what happens, right?
You know what's crazy, right? Is I never actually thought about the fact that they might not reply. I'm just now thinking about it, right?
Wow.
Like when I reached out to these specific people, I mean, it's say you're reaching out to a girl, she might not reply, things like. But in this, I think I personally have put. I think it's a way that I reach out to them with value, right? Like, here, I'm gonna help you out during your shoots, and I just want to learn. I'm not reaching out to solely get something from you, but I know I don't have enough, but it's like, here's my 1 cent. It's all I have, but I really want to learn, so like with Manny, I reached out saying, let me do a shoot for you. I have this concept I want to shoot you. I really love your style, right? With Denny Manny, I was shooting for his brand, right? With Payoki, I offered to help him at the studio. So it's like, reach out with value, not just, because no one likes to, I wouldn't like if someone just want to take, like, I worked hard for it. I'm not just going to give it to you, but they understand that when you're reaching out to someone who is a bit up there, they understand that you don't have enough. You don't have too much to offer. But it's just that gesture of like trying.
Yes. Oh man, now that I hear you say that, like, I'm thinking back to the times I've reached out to people, and there were definitely times like I was just asking for like, can you send me a beat? Like, not saying anything really in return, and maybe those reach outs would have went differently if whatever value you have, because everyone has something.
Yeah, everyone has something that you can give, or just compliment their work, like write a 2-page paragraph complimenting. They'll know that, okay, you really invested your time into understanding who I am as an individual. Rather than just send me this, like, help me out, like, who are you? Like, just, it's almost like, like, I don't owe you shit, So, to someone who's starting out, really, if there's one thing I wish that I'd known, is never stop, like, tapping into your inner kid. Because my biggest struggle is, as the more I knew, the less I did. Because back then, an idea popped in my head. I don't care too much about the intention. I didn't care too much about the intentions behind it. I didn't care about whether I have the right tools, all I cared about is, I have this idea. What do I need to execute it? But now it's like, I'm trying to find a storyline. I'm pressed about my limitations. Like, I don't have this. I want to put out the best. And it really just, like, cripples me. It's that I'm here wishing I could go back to the times when these things don't matter. Right? And it's like, I could give 100, but right now I can afford 40, and that's enough. Right? It's like, I don't have the latest tools. I don't have the latest clothing to match the idea, but I'm just winging it. And it was enough, really. It did numbers. It could have been more if I had a budget, someone sponsoring me, but it's just like starting where you're at and just, never stop tapping into that inner kid that just wants to try something out. And when you're starting out, oh my God, one thing is like, people come up to me and say, oh, I have this work I want to show you. I just started photography, but my work kind of suck right now. Of course, you've just implanted in my head that your work suck. So when you show it to me, this shit sucks.
Yes. You're already devaluing what you're about to share. When you didn't even need to say
You didn't
that.
even need
You
to.
didn't even say that. Yeah, don't say that. Don't say that. Be proud of your
Be
work.
proud of your work. And that's one thing I've always really done. It's like, when I was making this, right, I'm always quick to show the world what I'm working on. It's like, this is what I'm doing. I don't care if I suck or not. Like, I'm still going to show it and be proud of it. And people buy into that energy. People buy into that excitement.
Yeah.
You know, you have to feel excited about something you're doing because that energy is contagious.
Yes.
Right? And it pulls people to you.
If you don't put that out in the world, and if you don't feel that way about your own work and your own self, then how do you ever expect anyone else to feel that way?
It's like, if they do, maybe your family members, but people wouldn't give a fuck about you.
Yes.
Won't, because the world is harsh and the world is cruel, and you need to learn. And the sooner you understand that, it's like, be proud of your work, put it out there, and there's already that expectations when you're starting out, people don't expect much from you, so you already have an advantage because now you can beat the expectations because they expect less from you, but you get better, right? And you allow people to tap into your growth and really just follow you on your journey and stuff like that. And then so it's just, that's the one thing, is like, be proud to show your work when you're starting out. Share that photography even though it's overexposed, and still share it. You know, that's all I have.
Hey, well, thank you for coming to the studio, Paul.
Thank you.
Welcome to any time. For those of y'all that are tuning in, I mean, go check out this man's work, tap in, reach out. Looking forward to seeing where everything goes, and we just continue to blossom and always stay in touch and reconnect, man. So
here's my own question.
I
have a question for you, right? How do you maintain your hair? Like, because you know, like with my hair, right? It's always like tangling up, so I struggle with like keeping it.
I see. Yeah, and right now my afro's booming.
It's blooming.
Yeah. Well, I think I've been going back and forth between braids and no braids. So this has actually been the longest in at least a year with me just going full fro. So I do think, the process of having it braided where, you get it straightened and then it's all kind of tied up, and you take it out and then you comb it. When you first comb it out, it's like, oh, my hair grew this amount. But for me, shampoo, I think there's a whole debate on how often you shampoo and get your hair wet. I'll just say I wash it enough. I wash it enough. But then you just got to also let it breathe. I always wear a do-rag as well when I sleep.
Wear a do-rag?
I always wear a do-rag.
Oh, bonnet?
I'm a do-rag guy. I don't have a bonnet. I always wear a do-rag.
Okay.
Yeah, always wear a do-rag. And then essential oils, some conditioner spray, like coconut conditioner spray. I've had some lovely women in my life that put me on to the good products to get. So if you got a lovely woman that can just share and put you on to like the products, listen to them. I would also suggest that for any of the fellas that are trying to get the fro going. So
yeah, because it's trust me, it's a lot of work. Sometimes when you're like, let me just go cut this shit out.
But the braids is way easier to maintain than the fro.
Yeah,
100%.
Listen, in the morning when you have to get out and go do something, you running out of time. The fro is impossible.
Yes, yeah. And you comb it out and you got hair all
over it. It's impossible to maintain for me. So yeah.
Great question.
So yeah. I love your music, by the way.
Thank you, bro.
I love I feel like your journey has been, I've not really like fully tapped in, but it's I'm on IG through a while, through Mark, and like you always showing up, be it FE.
Yeah.
But it's like directly I'm not tapped in, but I'm tapped in indirectly. Yes. Because I see your work a lot and I see every single project you drop.
Yeah. Well, that's good that it's reaching
me.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I think it's testament to like the community of people we have around here. Like, there's no saying like what my artistic vision would be if I was anywhere else. So I think, just being surrounded by the people that you mentioned, and just being like, I think the biggest thing is just being proud of like whatever I put out there too is a big part. But it wasn't always like that at first, If you go look at my first SoundCloud drops back then, like there's so many songs I never put out because I was like, this is trash, you know, and who knows, maybe that could have been the one, but and I think just also if you're really passionate about it, putting in those hours and that work to see it through, there's no skipping that too. There's no skipping that.
And it's crazy because when you said about the music, like AG always, Adekunle Gold always says that, like, it talks about some of his songs, right, and talks about how that wasn't even the song that was meant to blow up, you know, like it didn't want to make it, you know, like, and I think there was one project with Burna Boy where he was talking about like that wasn't the songs that he wanted to put out to the world. Like, it just kind of just said, okay, you know what, let's just add this to the album or to the EP and stuff, and that turns out to be what people take on and run with it. Like, I've had times where I'm working and I work on a project, right, and I spend hours, days, months on that project, and it only gets a few likes and stuff like that. But what I create, like one of my work, I'll send it to you. I was coding for class, and then I started getting like stressed out because it was just a lot. I'd been spending like, I think I was on my 55th hour just programming. Like, I'd put in 55 hours into this assignment, and I was like, let me just take a 5 minutes break. And so I went on Photoshop, took some photos of the internet, merged it together, and created this like artwork from a photo I'd taken with Malanda, right? And just did this thing, right? And it took me like 5-10 minutes. And that photo blew up.
A photo that you took while
I was just taking a break from assignment, just to just get creative a little bit.
Yeah.
And decided to, I didn't even want to post it. I posted it right when I was done and went back to my assignment.
Wow.
Right, and that's where it comes down to, like, but it's also the energy I posted with. Like, there was so much intention behind the caption, right? It's just crazy about what energy you it's like the energy you're using. It's almost like the headspace you're in when you're putting out something to the world.
Yeah.
It's almost like in that headspace, I put it out to the world, and I sent my angels with it,
Yes.
right? And they delivered.
Yes.
You know, so it's like, and that's why it's like meeting someone who's excited about something they're doing. It makes me want to buy into it.
Yeah.
Because even though you're not up to par right now, I know what that excitement can bring.
Yes.
I know that it's like when you find someone who is just obsessed with their work, anything is possible. That drive alone drives them to the moon and beyond that, you know. So I back to the question again, you know, like I and just one of my advice, like just adding to that, like, yeah, be excited about whatever you're doing, because, you know, like that right there, you know, it'll take you far, way farther than you can ever, like, you meet someone and not too sure about your work. I met this lady yesterday, and she was just talking about what she is, like a pyramid scheme, right? But I'm still going to take a look at it because, and really have a conversation. I'm still going to give her a chance. Why?
What? Yeah, what?
Excitement behind what she was talking about. In my head, it's like, yeah, it's a pyramid scheme.
Yeah.
But it's just,
But she really believes in it, so.
and that in
it's
itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, man. Well, this has been a great conversation, my boy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I enjoyed myself.
Till next time.
Till next time.
Peace.
Peace.